Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Millis School Committee meeting on February 4th. We made it to February. I'm going to take a quick attendance. I am here. Ms. Canistrari, here. Mr. Conroy?
Here.
Ms. Gibbons is not available to be here tonight. And Mr. Powers?
Here.
Superintendent Mullaney?
Here.
And Mr. Wiggin?
Here.
Is here. This meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted on the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee. All videos are also available on YouTube. All school committee meeting minutes and agendas can be found on the school committee page of the Millis Public Schools website. Persons wishing to speak during open session must sign in before the meeting starts. Has anyone signed in, Mr. Wiggin, to speak?
No one has signed in.
Okay, so we're going to kind of skip all that since there's no one here to speak. And we are going to begin. Our student rep and our teacher reps are not here, although in their place we have a student coming to tell us about their amazing experience. Come on up.
Okay, thank you. I'm just here to talk about my senior project and also the STEAM Scholar program and kind of showcase it.
All right, can you tell us your name?
Introduce
Oh,
yourself.
I'm Isabella Briones.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can switch the slides.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so my conference is an environmental conference titled Youth for Earth Conference. And just to kind of preface, the STEAM Scholar program is something that you join sophomore year. And now as a senior, my senior project had to kind of fall into a STEAM field. So obviously it fell into the environmental field, whatever you want to call it, environmental science. And then the main kind of purpose of my conference was to provide resources for those students who are interested in majoring in environmental planning, environmental science, environmental engineering, whatever you want to call it. And my main kind of inspiration behind this was a lot of colleges usually have summits or conferences at this level, and you don't really see it at the high school level, so I kind of wanted to mimic their summits and conferences. Thank you. Just to give an overview of the conference, so it's going to be happening on February 27th, so it's fast approaching, and it's taking place at the high school, so it'll kind of be an in-school field trip for all of the high school students. The main attendees are made up of public high school students, so we have Millis, obviously, and then we have 6 others, so we have Framingham, Medfield, Norwood, Wayland, Wellesley, and Westboro. Those schools weren't too specific. I kind of cold emailed every school within a 45-minute drive, and those were the ones that got back to me, so I'm super excited about that. And then the total student number right now is 120. 47 of those are environmental action members, so the club at the high school, and then the other 73, I believe, are from the 6 other high schools. And then all of the attendees kind of have a background or an interest in environmental studies, so they're either an environmental club, and then we have 1 environmental science class from Wayland, so super excited about that. And then the main kind of bulk of my conference is made up of presentations and workshops. This is kind of a mock-up of my conference materials, which can be found on like a website, and I'm hoping to get that website linked on the Millis Public Schools website, so if you're interested, you can look at that. But I have 4 presentations. The keynote is Cindy Fitzgibbons from Channel 5. Super excited about her. She's the chief meteorologist. She does a lot of education and outreach, so I'm sure she'll have a lot of good things to say. And then my other 3 presentations kind of go hand in hand. There are 3 PhD students, or I guess you could say PhD candidates from Boston University. Each of their projects are sort of different, so it'll be cool to see their path, how they got there, their work. And they'll be explaining it at the high school level because obviously their work is very advanced. But and then my 5 workshops are all from kind of locally. So we have a Charles River Watershed workshop, a local Eversource representative, someone from Mass Audubon, and then someone from Viola. So all the workshops are hands-on, and the students will kind of be split up. And they'll be assigned, so Millis students will be with Framingham, Framingham will be with Medfield, so it's not kind of just people in their cohorts, because I really want other students to meet other students, because you don't really get that opportunity at Millis a lot. And then the 5th workshop, though it's only 4 up there, but Andrew Fiala, who's also a STEAM scholar, is running his own workshop. So super excited about that. I believe he's doing like an energy car sort of thing. He knows better than me, but yeah.
That's great.
And I put this slide on here so I didn't forget, but Emma Powers, she's also a STEAM scholar. She's going to be unveiling her mural. I don't know if you've seen it in the cafeteria, but she's painting a mural. It looks really good. It's not even done yet. But she's going to kind of talk about her inspiration behind it and her process, so I'm super excited about that. And we're also doing a group challenge at the end, but still have to figure that out. And then to kind of wrap it up, the conference isn't meant to just be a one-time thing. There'll be a lot of digital media going out, so we'll have a student photographer there taking pictures. We'll have a lot of those kind of mock-ups like the presenter and workshop slide available. And the main idea is that, say, Olivia is interested in environmental science and she needs an internship in college. Why don't I go email David from Viola, who I had a workshop with. So it's kind of to just work those connections and have those connections in the future, because that'll be really valuable, as jobs are really hard to get now. And then lastly, just thank you to my sponsors. So I have 6 different sponsors, because obviously none of this would be possible without money. So they're covering t-shirts, food, goodie bags for all the students, custom apparel, Viola, Harrison Murphy, Brown & Brown. They're all pretty local. And then Beyond Good and Alpine are kind of further out there, but they all help me a lot. Thank you. If anyone has any questions about the conference or about the STEAM Scholar Program, I'd be happy to answer.
It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Done a
amazing.
lot of work there.
And what's not in there too that I have seen a little bit of is she's already got tasks during the day all lined up for people who are
Oh
going
yeah,
to be.
Shaylin's got her work cut out for her.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You picked a very good day too, by the way. 'Cause
Oh yeah, it is your birthday, 'cause it's my brother's
Oh.
birthday. I chose it because I chose the date like a year ago, so it's the only date I could remember. in
Okay,
advance.
Great.
How did you connect with the presenters?
Some of them I kind of knew through like connections, but others I just cold emailed, and they were really nice. They got back to me, so
Yeah.
That's
yeah, I kind
awesome.
of just went to their website and emailed them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
What a great response.
Yeah, that's great. Are you looking for more people to come to it, or are you capped it at this 7 groups?
Right now I've kind of capped it because Millis, the school's already so small, so
Yeah.
I don't know if I can fit any more students.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Excellent. That's tremendous.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you.
job.
Can't wait to hear how it goes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. We'll have lots of pictures, right?
Yes, I will. They'll be posted everywhere.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming in. All right, that was
Thank
awesome.
you.
I want to go.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
That was great.
All right, moving on to our action items. We just have one, which is our minutes from last meeting.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Canisteri.
I make a motion to approve the January 25th meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, now we're going to move into our time and learning. Mr. Malini is going to present some student demographic data.
Isabel's a tough act to follow.
I know.
So just some the October 1st numbers have been placed on the DESE website, so we have our demographic information for October 1st. So I was going to go through some of those numbers and kind of look at historically where we've been, where we're going, and you know how our profile of our students has changed in the last 10 years, and look at you know trends moving forward. So here are our enrollments for this year, 2025. And the one in the center there is 2020, and the bottom one is 2015. It's important to note that the 2025 numbers are from October 1st, and those numbers right now, we've had 18 students move into the district since October 1st. And I'm doing the enrollment report a little later, And you'll see we're at 1179 students pre-K to 12 and five TIE students. So, you know, we're kind of right where we were 10 years ago, or excuse me, 5 years ago. And you'll notice 10 years ago, the numbers were a lot higher. So, you know, as we've seen, the population, the school enrollment has dropped, but it's leveling off and heading back up a bit. I'd also like to point out, you know, if you look at the young grades, first, second, and third, 94, 97, 99. Those are big numbers in those early grades. You know, if you look 5 years ago, 1, 2, and 3 were 77, 95, and 80. So significantly more kids in the younger grades there. And, you know, so that trend, that wave will, you know, be moving on to the middle school in a few years and then into the high school. Some of the demographic information, so 24, 25 is in the top left, and then 19, 20 is the top right, and then 2014, 15 is down the bottom there. And the big trends you can see, Hispanic and Latino population going from 3.6, 10 years ago, 3.6% of our kids. 5 years ago, it was 8.1% of our kids. And this year, 11.3% of our kids. So, you know, we do see, you know, a shift in the population here. We're becoming more diverse, as we all know and we've discussed. And then if we look at our special populations, selected populations, excuse me, we see in 2014-15, high needs population was 20.3% of our district. 5 years later, we were at 23.6%. And this year we're at 34.9%. So you see a big jump in the high needs population. And just again, the high needs population includes students who are English learners, includes students who are identified as economically disadvantaged or low income, and students with disabilities. So, you know, there's one student could be in all three of those categories, but they only count as one high need student. But you know, you can see a significant increase in that. If you just look at percentage growth, English learners have, you know, we certainly have a lot more. 0.8% 10 years ago, 1.3%. 5 years ago, we're at 2.2%. First language not English also sees significant growth. Economically disadvantaged, low income, 8.6%. 10 years ago, 10.9%, 17.5%. Now, and you also see the state numbers growing, but, you know, in terms of low income and things like that, it's not growing at the same rate that our populations are growing. And then finally, students with disabilities, we've seen, you know, as we've discussed, we've seen, you know, significant growth there, 12.2% 10 years ago, 13.7%, and this year we're actually above the state average. We're at 20.9% of our students with disabilities, and you know we've seen that growth over the last few years. And then if we look at the individual schools, Clyde Brown is kind of the bellwether, tells us where we're going, and you can see at Clyde Brown, top left, the number of students. Hispanic or Latino, our fastest growing population. You know, Clyde Brown has a greater percentage than the district. And then in the selected populations, you see Clyde Brown has a greater percentage of high needs than the district. English learners, first language not English, and students with disabilities. I would say students with disabilities, oftentimes there are some students who are on an IEP when they're in Clyde Brown, and some of them progress to a point where they no longer need to be on an IEP. So there tends to be, a drop in those numbers. We do have kids who come into the middle school who weren't on an IEP and are placed on an IEP in middle school, but usually the elementary school will have the highest percentage of students with IEPs, and also the higher percentage of English learners, because a number of those kids, if they come in as an English learner in kindergarten, by the time they're in like 3rd grade, they test out, they're no longer English language learners. So you can see in the middle school, the numbers are slightly below the percentage, the district percentages in those categories, with the exception of low-income students at the middle school. And then the high school, same thing. You see that kind of decline in the number of English learners and decline in the percentage of students with disabilities. I would also say that we have more English learners moving in to the elementary school than we do in the middle and high school. And then just some projections, and this is from the New England School Development Council. We use their projections. First of all, this is K to 12, and this does not include pre-K, but what their projections show is pretty much flat growth in 10 years. According to their projections, we'll have 2 more students K to 12 in the district than we have this year. But it's important to note that there's a number of building projects around town,
Yes.
and certainly some multi-family units going up that weren't factored into these projections. So, I included in the packet some very rough, very unofficial numbers from that Chief Barrett had with the number of units, and if you calculated 3.75 people per housing unit, or 2.75, you get a sense of what the numbers might be. And then I also included some very rough numbers from Bob Weiss on some of the projected potential building for the MBTA communities bylaw. So, the NASDAQ projections, I would say are pretty conservative. I don't know if any questions or comments?
Thank you.
And again, the numbers at the end of 24-25 will be different than
Sure.
what they were in October. Used to be they didn't change much. They changed significantly now.
Any questions for Bob?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. We're going to move into the chair report, and we're going to have a little MSBA update. Tomorrow, we have a meeting with the select board and the school building committee at the town hall in room
229.
229,
Yeah, 229.
where the select board or the school building committee is going to present to the school committee and the select board their findings, their research, and their recommended building plan to the committees, and the committees will
Right,
take a look
so
at
the
that.
School building committee voted, and then the school committee and select board have to vote to
Move forward with
move
one of the
forward
designs.
with the option that the school building committee recommends.
So that's tomorrow at 7
7
o'clock for those that are interested in listening to that. So we'll be there tomorrow. Anything else? Well, I think that's really the only thing that we're doing right now with the MSBA update. Mr. Mullany, you want to move into the superintendent's report?
Sure.
Okay.
Just real quick, the enrollment, as I said when we were looking at the demographics, the enrollment is 614 at Clyde Brown, 266 at the middle school, 295 at the high school, 5 at Ties. So we're at 1180 actually, and that's up 1 student from January. And out-of-district students 23, which is the same. And then choice, we were at 52, which is also the same at January. So, and then we have Mr.
Financial
Wigan,
report? Yeah.
who
Mr.
will
Wigan.
give us an update on the finances.
Yeah. What's the good word there, Terry, for
Well,
the
the-
finances?
Well, I'm gonna have some good words and then some cautionary words.
Okay.
So the good word is we're really where we should be,
Okay.
so slightly better than we were last month, so it's always the trend we want to be in,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
I think as I noted that we've encumbered or spent just under 58% of our budget, 57.6% to be precise, and we're 58.33% through the year. So we are functioning with a slight surplus, and that's basically the way we want to be at this point. And obviously, we're conservative when we do those projections. So as we get closer to the end of the year, obviously, we can be a little bit more precise, and those numbers open up a little bit. But that's anticipating things that, you know, Bob and I have looked at, and, you know, we're being cautionary. But I don't think we have not anticipated those surprises that may come down the pike, if they come down the pike.
Okay.
So, excuse me. The only other thing I was going to mention tonight as part of the financial report was that obviously last week everybody heard about the issue with grants,
Mm-hmm.
which may or may not still be an ongoing issue, but at least for the moment, grants are back on and back being released. But in thinking about the FY26 budget, which Bob and I are still looking at, the issue in the last 24 hours has been the elimination of the Department of Education. And with that, certain grants that come out of the Department of Education. Millis is a small, you know, school district, but we still receive slightly over $400,000 of grants from the Department of Education, principally from the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, being the largest. And not only would that severely impact the services delivered to our neediest students, but it would have a tremendous impact on our operating budget, because somehow we would, we guess, still be obligated legally to deliver those services, but now we would not have the aid from the federal government that has been promised since 1976 to deliver those services. So I think one of the messages that I wanted to deliver tonight was that, yeah, I know that we have a Democratic congressional delegation, but certainly I would say to anybody out there who watches this, and certainly to the committee itself, I would encourage writing our congressional delegation and saying, you know, these things have a severe impact, and it's not just on a school district, it's on individuals, it's on children. It's not just this nefarious budget, it's on children. And I think that needs to be reinforced as much and as often as possible. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing is, I think Bob and I are going to take another look at the budget this week. We are still having some trials and tribulations as we go through it, but I think we're close to needing probably to schedule a working session with the committee.
Okay.
So that we can kind of go through it in some detail with you and talk about some of the issues that we face. Questions on any of that?
So I have some questions about the grant funding. It's only the American with Disabilities Act right now that seems to be the problem.
That's the biggest problem. That's always far and away the largest grant that any school district gets. But we also get Title I to the tune of about $40,000. We get Title II and Title IV. Roughly, one is $10,000 almost all the time. One is a little bit more than that, 20-ish.
17.
17, yeah, 17 to 20,000. Oh, that's exactly what it is. Actually, it's 17,269. It helps pay for a paraprofessional, and then there is sometimes another grant related to IDEA that comes through for sped improvement. It comes in late every year, if it comes through at all. It's not always granted to us, but it was this year, the 274 grant, and that is usually around $10,000 as well. But the IDEA grant by itself is around $370,000.
Can you do me a favor and write up all the federal grants
Sure.
that we get and the cost associated with it and what that is used for in our district? And I will
Absolutely.
put together a letter to our state representatives.
Be happy to do that.
And our senators in DC to
Yep.
say that we need this.
Not a problem.
Is
Thank
it
you.
something we can share with Millis residents
Sure.
that they can also?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a factual thing.
Yep.
It's not, we're not
Yep.
advocating politically other than to say these are grants that if they go away, will impact the budget. There's no two ways about that.
I think it'd be helpful, just in dealing with this at work too, explaining what the funds go towards.
Yes.
Yeah.
And whatever people's personal opinions of it, there is a very targeted approach of what the administration wants to pay for or wants federal funding to go towards and what it does not want federal funding to go towards. And explaining and identifying how the funds that are being received are not being used for things that
Right.
this administration doesn't want them used for, and having that as the basis for ensuring the continuation of receiving those funds, it would be helpful.
I can outline what, in a general sense, what those grants were. First, so for example, Title I and Title II, I think, parts of those, each of those grants go basically to help pay for a math teacher at the elementary level. That's, generally speaking, I think everybody would agree that improving math scores at the elementary level is a pretty positive thing. So, you know, but again, I'll lay all that out. The bulk of our IDEA grant goes to hiring paraprofessionals that generally help students one-on-one as part of their IEP. Their IEP is a federally required individual educational plan. Again, our adherence to federal law.
Yep.
So something we are doing to adhere to federal law and, for that matter, state law as well. Title IV, and I may get my Title II and Title IV, I may be flip-flopping a little bit here. But again, one of them pays for, again, part of a paraprofessional in the early childhood program, the preschool program. So, and I think I did flip-flop. I think that's Title II and Title IV is the other
Okay.
one.
We'll
But,
freeze you.
in any event, I'll research that and lay that all out for you
Thank you.
accurately.
Yeah. And they
So-
did let us bundle them this year, actually.
Yeah, they did let us bundle them this year, which has, I mean, that part of it is actually a good thing. If they wanted to not necessarily have them as separate grants, but have them as a bundled grant, as long as we were able to take the same amount of money and then obviously use it appropriately in those fashions, that'd be fine.
Right.
But the fact is that if we lose that money, we're not going to be able to provide those services, certainly from grant funding, and we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do to provide those services out of an operating budget that is already challenged
Yep.
and that has already lost 22 people in the last 2 years.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We need to have that information
Yep.
to write to
All
her.
right.
representatives.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right. Anything else, Bob?
Executive session for.
Yeah, we have executive session
See?
to negotiate, talk about collective bargaining with Unit A and Unit C. Hopefully, we'll be starting that soon, next week maybe, to take a look at our calendars.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
make a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session for the purposes of discussing strategy with respect to collective bargaining for Units A and Unit C.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, so roll call vote. Mr. Conroy.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Canistry.
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
All right, that was a quick one. We will be, tomorrow we'll be at the Town Hall in room 229 at 7, if you want to hear about the school building options. And then not until February 25th we'll be back.